10 Fast and Furious characters who deserve their own spin-off. Fast and Furious main story will come to an end in 2026 when the franchise returns for its final outing, but the saga is likely to continue through future spin-offs, and there are several characters that deserve their own project. Having had 10 mainline movies since 2001, Fast and Furious has become a huge cinematic spectacle and one of the highest-grossing film franchises of all time, eventually branching out into spin-offs for the first time in 2019 with Hobbs and Shaw. The action flick was a big hit, leading to the confirmation of a solo Hobbs spin-off. There is no exact release date for the project, but Hobbs' solo outing will almost certainly come after the central story reaches its conclusion. In addition, Hobbs and Shaw 2 is also supposedly in the works, but with many aspects of Fast and Furious future uncertain, it's anyone's guess whether the film will actually happen or not. Regardless, more spin-offs are inevitable as the blockbuster series has way too much potential to end while it's still popular, and assuming the central characters survive Fast and Furious 11's ending, many of them should be given their own dedicated projects. Despite being introduced in a spin-off himself, Fast and Furious Victor Locke would make for a compelling protagonist in a Hobbs and Shaw associated spin-off. On the surface, Locke is a classic Ryan Reynolds-type character with a quirky personality and funny quips, but his role in the CIA makes him far more interesting. He is responsible for pairing Hobbs and Shaw together and has a deep history with The Rock's character that could be explored in much more detail. However, his potential connection to Etienne is by far Victor's most intriguing element. Although he works for the CIA and actively fights against the villainous organization, he could potentially be a double agent, as Ryan Reynolds voiced Fast and Furious mysterious Etienne director in Hobbs and Shaw. Brixton Lore may have been the film's main antagonist, but the director was the one pulling the strings, and a Victor Locke spin-off could potentially help uncover the identity of this shadow villain. Isabelle Neves is a fairly new character to the franchise, having been introduced in Fast X, but her appearance suggested she could become a major character in the future. Her sister Elena was a reliable ally for Dom's crew and assisted them throughout several movies before being killed off in the Fate of the Furious. Therefore, elevating Isabelle to a similar position as her sibling could be a fun move, but she might need a spin-off to help establish her backstory. Whereas her sister worked in law enforcement and security, Isabelle has a lot more in common with the main cast, as she is a Brazilian street racer. Exploring more about her history alongside the relationship she had with Elena could instantly make her even more important. And while she won't have too many opportunities to ride with the main group now that the main story is coming to an end, she could become a recurring character in future projects. The leader of the agency has become an important part of the Fast and Furious franchise, but there is still plenty to explore regarding him and his organization. Although he didn't feature in Fast X, Kurt Russell's character has grown in importance since his debut in Furious 7, and his disappearance adds to the character's appeal. Whether it be a prequel showing how he took over the agency or exploring what happened after his plane was attacked, he would be a convincing choice to lead his own spin-off. A Mr. Nobody-led project would undoubtedly change the dynamic we're used to seeing in Fast and Furious, as it could become more of a spy thriller rather than an all-out action spectacle. Seeing the information gathering and planning stages can be just as fun as the high-octane sequences that have become synonymous with the franchise. And Mr. Nobody feels like the perfect character to provide some new elements, especially with Russell being a massive name. Tess is another new addition to the series who made her debut in Fast X, but she already has plenty of appeal that would make a solo movie exciting. Brie Larson's Tess is the daughter of Mr. Nobody and arguably has a bigger future with the franchise, making a spin-off about her even more fitting than one about her father. Mr. Nobody could still feature, but seeing Tess trying to rebuild the agency's reputation after Amy's betrayal would be a fun concept, and Larson also has plenty of star power. Additionally, positioning Tess as the agency's next leader would potentially set up the heavily rumored all-female Fast and Furious spin-off, as the climax could feature her recruiting some familiar faces for a big mission. She may have had a relatively limited role in Fast X, but Tess seems destined to play a big part in the final movie, and wasting the potential of such a crucial character would be unfortunate, proving she deserves the chance to shine in her own project. Having already had a spin-off alongside The Rock's Luke Hobbs, Deckard Shaw is easily one of the best candidates for another movie. Jason Statham has been a fantastic addition to the series and has become one of the franchise's most prominent cast members over the past decade. Shaw made a wonderful transition from a spiteful villain to a reluctant hero, and his polarizing personality is a big part of what has made him so admired by the audience. His serious yet sarcastic personality clashes with many of the central characters in a positive way, allowing him to have plenty of memorable scenes. The former antagonist is interesting enough to carry an action-driven adventure, but including Shaw's family in his Fast and Furious spin-off would add even more personality to the project. Vanessa Kirby and Helen Mirren both had fantastic performances in Hobbs and Shaw, meaning their return alongside Statham's character would make for a hilariously entertaining story, and the franchise shouldn't pass up on the chance to bring such talented actors back into the saga. Another villain turned hero, Jacob had quite the transformation between F9 and Fast X, but he could easily have a compelling spin-off. Despite his serious nature during his first appearance, John Cena's character showed he has a funny side, and is also a great driver alongside an expert combatant, giving him all the traits of a classic Fast and Furious character. However, after his supposed death in Fast X, Jacob Toretto's return in Fast and Furious 11 is unlikely, suggesting we may have already seen the last of him. Given how charismatic Cena is alongside Jacob's importance, it would be wild to give him just 2 appearances. Dom's brother feels like he should have a much larger part in the story, and while the franchise has a habit of bringing characters back from the dead, the next movie would feel too soon for his comeback. Whether it be a film showing how he became a villain in the first place, a story set between F9 and Fast X, or a future movie focusing on him surviving his alleged death, Jacob deserves another shot in the limelight. Despite only having 1 appearance to his name, Dantas is arguably already Fast and Furious' best villain, as his flamboyant personality and performative nature make him hard to forget. Unfortunately, Fast and Furious 11 will almost certainly kill him off, and the best-case scenario is the antagonist getting sent to prison. Either way, a continuation of his story beyond the final main movie seems impossible, but a prequel spin-off could really help explore how he became so unhinged. Fast X did a great job of explaining his motivations and making it clear he always possessed some bratty elements, but plenty of time passed between his vendetta against Dom starting in Fast 5 and his plans being put into motion in Fast X. Therefore, a prequel would allow Jason Momoa to deliver another captivating performance while giving the audience a chance to enjoy Dante one last time before saying goodbye to the character for good. Despite Dom and Letty being at the forefront of the franchise, Han and Giselle are arguably the franchise's best couple, and it would be great to see them finally share the spotlight. Gal Gadot's Fast X return in 2023 was the first time she had been part of the franchise since Fast and Furious 6, but she has yet to reunite with Sung Kang on-screen. Both of their characters had fake-out deaths, meaning their first scene together will likely be filled with emotion and set up a potential partnership in Fast and Furious 11. However, their story shouldn't end here. Han and Giselle are both integral characters in the series and seem likely to survive the final film, given they both returned recently. With their future all but secure, it would be great to see them both take center stage in a spin-off, as their daring personalities could lead to a lot of thrills while giving them a proper chance to reconnect. Assuming audiences responded well, they could have several movies together, which opens up the potential for some major cameos as well, showing how much potential Han and Giselle have together. Having been a major antagonist in several movies, Cipher looks to be changing her ways by teaming up with Letty and Giselle in the final outing, but the character still has more potential. If she is able to find redemption in Fast and Furious 11, it could set her up for a role in an all-female F&F spinoff, but Cipher could easily get her own project as well. Watching her build a new life and try to enjoy a quiet retirement while the demons from her past come back to haunt her could be a fascinating concept. She will no doubt still have some major contacts who could help her fight the many enemies she has made throughout her time in the franchise. This could lead to some notable names joining the cast of her spin-off, many of whom may go on to become pivotal characters in the future. Charlize Theron definitely has the star power to lead her own project in the Fast and Furious universe, and Cipher is one of the most interesting characters still around that fans would happily see more of. Roman and Tej are by far the funniest duo in Fast and Furious, and their contribution to the saga over the years means they have more than earned their own spin-off. Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris have electrifying chemistry and bounce off each other perfectly, which would make it intriguing to see how they would work together in leading roles. Neither character appears like they'll be seeking a new line of work after Fast and Furious 11, so a spin-off could focus on their next adventure following the main series. Having the two argue, joke around, and ultimately work as one to take down their foes would be a lot of fun, and something long-term fans would definitely get a kick out of. It would be the perfect way to keep Natalie Emmanuel's Ramsey involved in Fast and Furious, as she has become close with the duo and matches their fun nature. Having been part of the franchise since 2003, Rome and Tej deserve a spin-off more than anyone, and it has the potential to launch plenty of sequels in the future.